I'd like to welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to the webinar tonight, Exploring Artificial Intelligence, the Future of Dentistry. And let me just introduce Ann-Marie here for a second. Um, I can't remember how we originally met, if it was an email introduction.
I don't I don't even
I can't even
remember.
remember.
That's a good one.
But I reached out to Ann-Marie because I think I found something online that was written, that you had written or whatnot. I reached out to you. And I've been like neck deep in AI stuff for the last couple of years um, here at my social practice, and wanted to start really kind of like finding out who else in the industry is acquainted with AI, who understands it, can offer some education and information about it, and found Ann-Marie online somewhere. I think it was an article that I'd read and reached out to you. And I had her, I found out that she's doing quite a bit of presenting. You're actually being asked to come out and speak about AI at some events. And so I had her show me what she's been presenting, go through her presentation deck. And I thought this is actually super, super, super helpful. Um, and from her experience, speaking of, I speak about AI from a totally different perspective, which is mostly from marketing, right? But your perspective came from really kind of like um, just anybody who doesn't really get what AI is, and they need to get a good context of how it's developed over time, a little bit of history on AI, and how it's beginning to kind of influence dentistry. I felt like your presentation was spot on. And so in tonight's presentation, I've asked for Ann-Marie to go through some of her presentation. I don't think you're going to go through everything that you do, but you are going to go through a few of the high points of your presentation. So the context is I'm going to, when we get going here in a second, I'm going to hand this off to Ann-Marie to just kind of start and go through her presentation. And I'm going to watch for messages, questions, or chats that anybody has. Please, everybody, chat in if you have a question or you want us to stop and pause and dig deeper on a subject. I might have a few questions for you, Anne-Marie, that as you go through your presentation to maybe flesh out some of the ideas. But and then towards the end, I'll show you some. I'll show you. She's going to hand the presentation back to me, and I'm going to show you some actual applications of how AI is influencing dentistry from a production, practice management, and marketing kind of aspect. So I'm going to go ahead and read if it's okay if I just read your bio. Uh,
Go for it.
all right. So Anne-Marie, and I'm not going to read every single one of your acronyms here.
Don't do
I
it.
don't even know.
No.
I don't even know what they all mean. They just mean a lot. She's really, really, really important. She's a, Anne-Marie's a graduate of Forsyth School for Dental Hygienist. You were a hygienist for like 25 years, you said, I think.
Yep.
So plenty of experience there. You graduated from Northwestern University and the University of Massachusetts, Boston. You're a fellow member of quite a few different professional organizations. You're also an Esther Wilkins Distinguished Alumni of Forsyth. Am I saying Forsyth correct? Is that Forsyth?
Forsyth,
Forsyth?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Forsyth Award recipient. And you've been published. You speak all over the country. And you also offer CE. Did you
Correct.
get approved through the AGD or the ADA to offer CE yourself?
That's through the American Academy of Dental Hygiene. So even though
Got it.
it's dental hygiene related, it can go across the board for anyone. So
Okay,
it's been
cool.
accepted by a number of different boards. So
We
we're
should
good
have
there.
we should have
Yeah.
gotten approved to get CE for this class. What were we thinking?
We didn't even think.
We didn't even think
Oh,
about it. I'm so sorry,
oh,
everybody.
oh well.
Um, she also has quite a bit of experience with EagleSoft, the patient management system. And I'd love for you to, when you start, just give us a little bit of information about your EagleSoft experience. And she provides consulting, front office, back office consulting across a myriad of subjects and processes and practice management consulting, but she definitely has an emphasis in hygiene because she's been a hygienist for so long. So anyway, I hopefully that's a healthy review of of your bio.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about EagleSoft really quick. You'd mentioned that you know it really well.
So,
What is it?
I used to be a trainer for Patterson as an
Okay.
EagleSoft trainer, and so I know EagleSoft inside and out, and have helped several offices since I've left Patterson, with understanding the software and what their team needs to know. A lot of times, practices don't really know, they're only surviving in their software. They really don't understand the software.
Yeah.
So that's an important avenue that I talk with offices, and as well as just doing hygiene and office administrative consulting. So thank you for all of that, Adrian. So
Yeah.
if we might as
Yeah,
well
please.
get started.
Let's do this. Let's
All
jump in.
right. So we're going to talk a little bit about tonight about what AI is, where it came from, and then how it's being used in dentistry, as well as in medicine, where it originally started. So, why AI? Well, patients, it's around us every single day in our everyday lives, as well as patients are looking for practices that are using cutting edge technology. So, Adrian, I'm going to ask everyone to put into the chat. I'm not monitoring the chat, you are.
I got
So,
it.
um, have you or are you currently using AI, whether in your practice or in your life, in your personal life? Are you or have you currently are using AI?
They might
So
be using AI and they don't even know it.
that's right. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah, please chat in here. I'm watching the chat.
Great. So I'll let people do that. And as I'm going forward, if as people chime in, you can read them off.
Well, and one thing, when you guys chat in, if you are using AI, let us know how you're using it. If there's a particular software you're using or product, or if you're just using, say, ChatGPT, just say, yes, I'm using this or that. Okay.
Awesome. Great. But what is AI? We talk about artificial intelligence, but what really is it? It's the computer's ability to solve problems just like a human. But we've all made meals, we've all cooked at various times in our lives, and we follow recipes when we cook. And those recipes have ingredients. And in AI, there are three main ingredients: algorithms, which are mathematical concepts. Now, I'm a hygienist. Math and I do not get along. This is where Adrian comes in because
No,
I
no, I don't
don't
know math
understand.
either.
I don't understand algorithms, but computer programmers and scientists do. Okay. As a hygienist, I can count to 1 to 32, but beyond that, my math comprehension is minimal. So, the algorithms are the mathematical concepts that drive computer programs. Then we have computers. They, over the last few years, the power of our computers has exponentially grown. In years ago, if you had a computer, it had to be housed in a warehouse type room with refrigeration. Now we all have computers in our pockets. And then the amount of data that is on the internet and available to us 24/7 is amazing. Think about years ago, we had to go to the library or you had an encyclopedia set in your home. And oftentimes those were outdated, but now we can get instantaneous information right away.
Yeah.
But AI isn't anything new. It's actually been years in the making. In 1642, for example, the French mathematician Blaise Pascal created something that would, in today's world, be considered a calculator. In 1837, Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace designed something that would be equivalent to the computer. But then it wasn't until the work of Alan Turing during World War II, where he broke the German code using mathematical algorithms, that AI began to take shape. But it wasn't until the 1950s when the term AI really became a true entity. And then from 1960s and 70s and up basically up until 2011, artificial intelligence was only housed in governmental institutions and higher educational institutions. But in 2011, that all changed with IBM's Watson. There was a little game show called Jeopardy, and Watson beat a human at Jeopardy. And from there on, AI has really taken off.
There was a lot of that was a big deal when that happened. There was a ton of
Mhm.
publication about that. And by the
Exactly.
way, Anne, by the way, can I call you Anne, or is it Anne-Marie or
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie? Okay.
Yep.
One of the things that I did a presentation a few weeks ago, and I actually found Eliza, that original program, the one that came out in 65. There's a website for it. They actually uploaded the original Eliza computer system into a
Oh,
website, so you can check it out. It's actually quite interesting that how it was built. So
oh wow.
you
I
can
will
look it online.
definitely have to check out it.
I think that maybe in a presentation in the future, if you bring that up, but you could even show you can interact with it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I love it. And whenever I give a presentation, I always learn something. So that's
There you
great.
go.
I've learned something already. Yay. So when we talk about AI, it's not just one thing. Just like it's made up of all of those different ingredients, AI has different subsets. And the first subset is machine learning. It's pattern recognition. If you're on social media and you tag your friends, that's using machine learning. If you watch Hulu or Netflix and you like a show, and then all of a sudden you get suggestions for another show. Now, you may or may not like that suggestion, but that's part of AI. It's not always 100% correct. Then we have deep learning, which classifies and predicts outcomes. We all have credit cards and debit cards. And all of a sudden, your credit card's being used in a place where you would never be. And your credit card company contacts you because they recognize it as fraud. So that's deep learning. Then we have neural networks. Just like the neural networks that occur in our brains, if you're playing a computer game, those characters are actually neural network characters. Then we have computer vision. The decisions are based on previous observations. It's a self-driving car. A self-driving car knows when to stop, when to turn left, when to turn right, all of that. Cognitive computing. It analyzes speech just as if it was talking to a human. It's your chatbots that are out there. And most importantly, we have natural language processing. It understands language. If you talk to Alexa or Siri, that's using natural language processing. Now, when we mix all of those subsets together, we have something called a large language model, or you may see it written as a generative AI, which takes information and builds on that and creates text and images and videos, what ChatGPT is. Or if you've ever heard of DeepSeek, a couple of months ago, we were talking about DeepSeek.
Yeah,
Those are
that's the
LLMs, large
Chinese
language
LLM, right?
models.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the
And each,
DeepSeek. DeepSeek is the large language. Is it a Chinese large language model? Is that correct?
yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was Chinese or Japanese. I think I want to say Chinese.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Kind of blew everybody's heads off because they built it and it didn't cost $200 billion to build.
Exactly.
So anyway,
So, all of these LLMs, what they do is they ask you for a prompt. And those prompts are basically questions. You can put in a prompt and get whatever information you want. What's the weather going to be tomorrow? It'll give you all of that information. But just like everything else that's out there, there are strengths and weaknesses of AI. Now, the strength is that it can reduce human error. It can forecast things. I live outside of Boston, so we may have a major snowstorm. Uh, we get a warning about that. Or the hurricanes from down south, all of those types of things. It helps in forecasting. It's available 24/7. It can handle so much information. It doesn't have to eat, sleep, drink, go to the bathroom. It's always available. Then it can help with repetitive jobs, the things that as humans we hate to do over and over again. Most importantly, especially within dentistry, it can help with calibration. We have patients who go to different dentists and get different opinions. For example, I had a friend contact me earlier this week who had a question about dentistry, and she's gone to three different dentists and she's gotten three different opinions for her situation.
Hmm.
Why? Because we're not calibrated, and AI can help with that. And then it mitigates risks. Think about the bomb sniffing robots or the robots that go underneath the ocean. All of those are protecting humans from whatever risk that may be presented. But yet, just like anything else, there are weaknesses of AI. And one of the biggest one and the biggest concern for bringing AI into dental offices is the risk of unemployment. Team members hear AI and they're like, oh no, I'm going to lose my job because it's eliminating repetitive tasks. But by eliminating those tasks that we don't want to do, it opens us up within our practices to do so much more for our number one priority, which is our patients. It's emotionless, can't feel anything. Automation can bring about laziness. If I know that AI can write a paper for me or an article for me, why should I spend my time doing it? But there is a high cost of development and training for all of those algorithms. You have to constantly be updating the mathematical concepts and over and over again, training it. There's a lot of high energy. We're looking at more of a green society now, but using AI has a lot of high energy. And most importantly, especially for dental practices, is there's a lot of security concerns surrounding it. And then there's the biases, the errors, the deep fakes. Did you know that a few months ago, Tom Hanks was promoting a dental insurance company? No, not really. That was a deep fake. It was
I
a
never heard
company.
about that. I never
Yep,
heard about that.
yep. I actually saw it on one of the morning shows the other day when they were talking about AI and how it's taking over the world. They showed the video of Tom Hanks
That's hilarious.
talking about
Well,
dental
terrifying.
insurance.
Yeah. Anne-Marie, one quick question. Let me just mention Adeline's raised her hand twice. Adeline, if you could use the chat to ask a question, I will make sure we'll bring it into the conversation.
Great, thank you.
Yep, keep going. Thanks.
So, in our practices, most of us have practice management softwares, our PMSs. And there are two ways of looking and using PMSs. One is as a server based, if you have one or two locations, but then a lot of practices have multiple locations. And so they're looking at using cloud based software. Even some of the single practices are looking at cloud based software. Now, with a server based software, you purchase the license once, you're done, over, that's it. With a cloud-based software, you're paying a subscription fee. Think about your Hulus, your Netflix, your Amazon Prime. All of those things are using a software and you're paying monthly for a subscription fee. All of those cloud-based type of entities are called software as a service, SaaS. Now, software can also be used as a medical device. And when it's being used as a medical device, it's often used to treat or diagnose disease. And that when it's done for treatment or diagnosing, it's called SAMD, software as a medical device. And SAMD products have to be cleared by the FDA. So when we're talking about products that are used to treat or diagnose, think radiology, think imaging, then those products have to be cleared by the FDA. Now, in medicine, AI has been used for a number of different years and in a number of different areas. What's that? What's that, Adrian?
I didn't say anything. You're good.
Hmm. Oh, okay. And so it's being used to personalize medicine in robotics, in image analysis. If you think about having a mammogram as a woman, the mammogram imaging is being looked at, yes, by a radiologist, but also by artificial intelligence. So there's so many areas that AI has been used for a number of years as that SAMD, as that software as a medical device. But thinking about dentistry, artificial intelligence in dentistry is revolutionizing the field by enhancing diagnostic accuracy and enabling early detection of oral diseases. It streamlines dental workflows, allowing for more efficient and personalized patient care and eliminating silos. We have so many different silos in our practices. For example, our medical history doesn't talk with our practice management software, our CBCT doesn't talk with our PMSs, all of those different silos. And think about insurance and third-party payers and revenue cycle management, all of those things are in their own different silos. The American Dental Hygienists Association, a few weeks ago, just released the standards of clinical practice for dental hygiene. And one of the things that's mentioned in there is about personalized patient care, person care versus actual patient care. And that's where we need to be in dentistry, looking at person care, not necessarily patient care. So, what are some of the applications of AI in dentistry? Well, in the administrative side, we have call tracking and analytics, receptionists. You can use a large language model for correspondence. If, for example, one of your insurance companies denies a claim, you can use an LLM to write an appeal letter or write marketing for you or use for social media. But anytime you're using LLMs or any other type of AI for promoting or investigating or developing anything, you always want to make sure that it's read and understood by the practice owner, the dentist or the practice owner, whoever, because you want to make sure that it is accurate and maintains that practice's voice. And then we have social robots. There's a social robot that works in pediatric practices that can really calm children and calm patients as they come. Now, thinking clinically, we've got teledentistry. Teledentistry prior to COVID was more of a rural type of thing.
Yeah,
Now
it's
we
a
have so many aspects of using teledentistry within our lives. As a hygienist, and when I go into practices, I would look at reports and do what we call a periodontal prophy percentage or periodontal prophy ratio, looking at the codes that have been charged out for the prophies, the 1110s of the world, and then the periodontal hygiene codes, the periodontal maintenance, the quad scaling, 1 to 3 teeth scaling, the gingivitis code, as well as the gross debridement code. And then we do a ratio. And when I look at that ratio between periodontal codes and prophy codes, oftentimes that ratio is really low. Although the practice is we're doing a great periodontal therapy. But when I talk to the hygienists and other team members, all we're doing is quoting bleeding and probing depths. They're not doing comprehensive, complete periodontal evaluation, which involves a number of things beyond just bleeding and probing. But what happens is in a 45-minute or an hour hygiene appointment, the hygienist doesn't have time to do it all. So something gets left out, and that's usually the periodontal charting, as long with several other things like oral cancer evaluations. April is Oral Cancer Awareness Month. So we need to be aware of all of those things. But using artificial intelligence for voice periodontal charting and voice chart restorative charting, as well as voice notes, helps save time and actually gives back time. And then we have imaging.
Oh, Anne-Marie, really
Go
quick
ahead.
on that note. I did a presentation a few weeks ago, and I was asked by the audience well, I was asked by the event but prior to coming that the audience wanted me to touch on perio charting, AI perio charting. And I wasn't too familiar with it, but I did go out and I found a few companies that have developed that product, and it's actually quite amazing.
It
So
is amazing. Yeah,
there are some companies in the dental industry that have developed that they just basically listen to your voice, they understand natural language processing, they update your charting as you're doing your hygiene appointment. It's actually pretty cool.
exactly. Um, and it it's just like Siri or Alexa.
It's just
Whereas
like
some
the
of the
exact same
older
thing.
applications that are out there, um, you had to train the computer. And if several different people used that same operatory and that same computer, it didn't recognize the other people.
Mhm.
So these do. They recognize all sorts of voices, accents, and all of that. Then the biggest area where AI is being used in dentistry is in imaging, recognizing and showing your patients what caries are, what calculus is, the bone levels, all of that. Patients don't trust us because of, like my friend, got 3 different opinions. You go to 10 different practices, you're going to get 10 different opinions. And using technology and using artificial intelligence helps the patient trust more, building that trust. And thus, when there's more trust, there's better case acceptance. Now, beyond just those, there are so many other avenues within dentistry, everything from robotics and healthcare analytics to salivary diagnostics. We know that saliva is the new blood, and understanding using AI, the health of the person. Think about person versus patient. But yet, just like there are pros and cons and positives and negatives of AI, we have to take into consideration some questions for any vendor that is using an AI in dentistry. There's something called a hallucination and in AI. And what that hallucination is a false positive or a false negative. So, for example, a false positive is looking at an image and saying, oh, there's carious lesion here. But then when you examine it clinically, there isn't. So that's a false positive. Or a false negative, the AI completely misses something that you see clinically. So we have to, every AI program has hallucinations. That's just part of the nature of artificial intelligence. But we have to understand that we want to keep that percentages low. Now, when we're dealing with AI or any new technology, bringing that into an office and a practice, we have to understand that change is difficult for everyone. Why would I want to use this technology? Everything is working great. We've always done something another way. Why do we need to change? So understanding the value and the importance of change management. But then when we talk about individual vendors, we have to ask them specific questions. Where are they getting their data? Is it non-biased? Who's looking at all of these sets and creating these algorithms? What about a penetration test, which, or otherwise known as a pen test, which basically the software tries to break, the vendor tries to break their own software. Then what about HIPAA and cybersecurity? And there are a lot of companies out there. Every single day, I hear about some new AI company that's coming into dentistry. Now, there are companies out there that have been in dentistry for a number of years, like My Social Practice. But then there are companies out there that are only coming into dentistry because AI is coming into dentistry. So dentistry, as we know it, is different than a lot of other operations and businesses. Not only do we have to look at what the companies our vendors are looking at, but we have to look at how is it going to change our team? How is it going to make our work easier or more difficult? Does it, how is it going to be used in our practice? Thinking about that change management. Do we have enough technology to manage it? Who's going to be in charge of it? How do we get trained today and in the future as the software increases and changes, as well as when we bring new team members on board? How are they going to learn about it? There was one practice that I was in that, it was at the time when digital imaging was coming into practices. And I had been working with film and did great x-rays with film. I hadn't been exposed to using digital imaging. Well, I had didn't take some very good x-rays because they didn't show me the technology. They didn't inform me and keep me educated as a new team member. The future of AI is so bright in dentistry and in our world. The future of AI is going to change not only what we do clinically, but in the administrative and the business side of practice. Everything that we do in dentistry is focused on our number one priority, that patient. So whether it be clinically or in our administrative side of our practice, AI is going to make that patient much more active. But we always, whenever we're talking about bringing technology into a practice, we have to understand what is the goal for the practice? Why are we doing it? And then we have to have some team input. I've been in practices where new software was just given to the team and they had no idea why. We've got this new software and what are we supposed to do with it? We had great software before. Our old software did this. Our new software doesn't do that. But we need to have team input because we also want to make sure that any technology we use helps communicate to the patient. I was listening to a podcast earlier where the person was talking about artificial intelligence and how they it was being used in a practice, but the clinical team member just quickly looked at it and didn't give any communication to the patient about it. We
Hmm.
need to have that so that patients understand and can appreciate and value what we do.
There.
So
Oh,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say I actually just talked with a company called Bola AI. They have a little mic that sits on your
Yep.
lapel, right? Have you looked at this product or seen something like it?
Oh, yep. I know them very
You
well.
do? Yeah, and I don't know probably as much as you know about the product, but basically it records the entire conversation between the staff, the team, and the patient, summarizes it just like you would have a meeting summary AI agent listening to your video call, right, and summarizes it, and then
Hmm.
uploads the information into the patient management system. And in that type of a situation, I think it would definitely be a HIPAA compliance issue if you didn't tell the patient that you were doing that, right?
Correct.
An efficiency issue, but legally, and I believe that I don't think Bull is doing this incorrectly. I think that they advise people to do it just like this, but I would imagine that that's a problem. Is that the case?
So not so much of a problem in terms of think about your medical doctor. Your medical doctor oftentimes dictates information, so that's covered under HIPAA. And when we as hygienists or the assistant helping the doctor and doing charting, we know that when the patient hears their periodontal numbers, 232, 345,
Yeah,
they get it better. So verbalizing things for the patient. And
yeah,
yes, the patient should know that AI is being used in the practice,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
So I've stopped sharing so that
Okay.
you can share
Well,
your.
yeah, I'll take it from here. I appreciate that, Anne-Marie. That's a great overview of how AI is being what it is. One of the things that I found very helpful in your presentation when I started originally was this whole idea of AI gets very it's such a broad statement that understanding that natural language processing, which is a capability of AI, is a subset. And so your subset
Correct.
um, list, deep learning is a subset. These are all kind of applications or practical applications of what AI can do. And so I felt that was a really helpful kind of like overview of it. With that, and also with a couple of the comments that have come through, it sounds to me like um, Lizia mentioned that, and hopefully I said your name correct, Lizia. She uses ChatGPT. Okay, when you asked the question originally, she said, "Oh, I use ChatGPT."
Hmm.
That's kind of the inflection point with humanity is ChatGPT with AI because
Right.
everybody's used it. So I'm going to piggyback on her comment about ChatGPT and talk a little bit about how we, as a marketing company, what we're doing in order to start using some of these tools to improve our product and service. So with ChatGPT, I'm going to tell you a quick story about this. So back in just before COVID, or maybe it was right after COVID, we launched a chat product. It was just a little widget that you put on your website, and when a patient comes to the site, they could chat instead of have to make a phone call if they wanted to communicate with the practice. We developed that because when we are hired as a marketing company, we do search engine optimization, we do SEO, we do ads, we do all this stuff, these activities to get patients to come to the website or schedule an appointment. Well, there's a problem that happens, which is what happens when the patient comes to the website at 5:03 p.m. and everybody's gone home, right? They either make a
Right.
phone call and they get voicemail, or they go to the website and there's no way to communicate. And so,
Mhm.
so we were looking at this web chat as just a very simple product that would give a lift to increasing conversions when somebody came to the website, because we know statistically half of the population are millennials and Gen Zs and alphas, which are all the weird people on the planet, right? We're not. And they don't like to make phone calls. Like
No.
it's weird, right? They'd rather
Yep.
chat. So we thought, okay,
Mhm.
let's put chat on on the sites, and that way we'll get a lift. Well, we did. We put chat on all these sites, and what it did is it just pinged the office. Somebody chatted and it pinged the office, and somebody at the office needs to respond. We did that, and like within a few weeks, every single practice called us back and said, take it off our website. We can't handle all the chats.
Mm.
So we're like, oh, that's the point, right? The point is you want to give them a way to communicate. But what we didn't foresee and we should have known is that after COVID, it's almost impossible to get employees to work in a dental practice, let alone shrink the tasks that every employee has. And so if you give them chat to now manage, there's just no way they're going to be able to do it because it's super, super
Mhm.
intrusive. And, if they're sitting there talking to a patient, checking them out or checking them in, they're not going to stop and answer a
Right.
chat, which is
Right.
what's happening, right? And so now it becomes actually a damaging marketing tactic because, um, you know, now nobody's answering the chat, right? You can't give them a chat, they not answer it, then they feel, then the patient's like, well, what's the point, right? So we
Right. And then they lose the trust.
they lose trust in the practice, right? So we removed this chat function, and I thought we're just not going to be able to do this. The only other way to offer a great chat service would be to hire a bunch of live agents to manage chat on behalf of the practice, and we didn't want to do that. So anyway, we dumped it. Okay. So 2000 November 2022 comes around. ChatGPT launches. I start playing with ChatGPT, and if you've not played around with ChatGPT yet, you need to. It's a little freaky in the beginning because it's just so human-like. You're like, what's happening to the world, right? But I was playing with that and I thought, oh my gosh, this thing has the ability to communicate on a human-like level. What if we could train it so that it knew it had a persona? It acted like an office manager or a front desk team member from a practice. If we could do that, then we could add chat to the websites and it wouldn't require a task from the team. It could just manage the conversation. And then if we could add some capabilities to it so that it could maybe schedule appointments or take the whole conversation with the patient, summarize it, and send an email to the team, it would provide a better communication platform. So that's what we did. We built that. So we built this not because AI is sexy and hyped and interesting. We were trying to find a functional way in which we could improve the conversions on marketing campaigns. So let me share my screen really quick, and I'm just going to show you kind of what this looks like. Give me one, where to go? And I'm just going to show you some practical examples of how AI, from a marketing perspective, is kind of influencing dentistry. So this is we anyway, we built the product and it's called Annie. It's an AI agent and it's built on ChatGPT. So we're using the ChatGPT large language model. Okay. But what we do is we take that large language model and we put a layer of training on it to tell it, you're not just ChatGPT, you're the front office team member at a dental practice. And this is how you talk to patients. You use these types of vernacular, you use this vernacular, you use patients instead of customers, right? Or clients. You speak dental talk, right? We gave it a whole layer of that to kind of like influence it so that it speaks like a dental team member. Then we
Hmm.
gave it another layer about that specific practice. So when you go and you add a chat to a practice, it has to be able to speak not only dental talk, it has to know what insurances you take or don't take. It needs to know who the doctors are, who the team members are, how to find the practice if you're lost, how to answer questions about insurance or cost objections, or maybe it needs to be able to take a note and a message and notify the team. And so we give it a second layer that is fine-tuned the agent to the practice. Okay. And it worked unbelievably well. Like we didn't know if it was going to work well, but it worked well. And I just have a little quick video here that I'll just play. And this is just a recording of a chat that happened. So, hello, it starts with hello. Do I answer? Do you have any questions I could answer? I need to schedule a cleaning. That's the patient asking a question. Just want to find some availables for your cleaning appointment. And this chat is directly connected to the patient management system of the practice. So it's looking for open slots in the hygiene operatory, and it's offering those. Patient says, let's do the 15th at 12. And he says, thank you, Connor. Let me get that appointment booked. It books the appointment. It would end up grabbing the patient's first name, last name, email, phone, and scheduling directly into the patient management system. When it's done, it takes all of that and it sends an email to the practice to say, hey, I just had a conversation with a patient that scheduled an appointment on this date, and they'll go into the patient management system, and there it is. So now what we
Awesome.
have a very it's that example is a super simple example, but it's removing a task, not adding a task, right? It's removing the how many times you have to pick up the phone and schedule an appointment. And that's great. You can give that to your team member, but it's a repetitive task. Like in your presentation, if you can take repetitive tasks, you can automate it, you then free up time for your team to do something that's more important, like talk to the patient in front of them in the
Right.
office, right? So that's an example of how web chat can function using natural language processing, which is a subset of AI, which you talked about. Okay. Now, from there, we started thinking, oh, well, what else can we do? Well, in the dental industry, how many dental practices miss phone calls? All of them miss phone
Hmm.
calls, and they miss a lot.
Right.
I think the average is like a third of the phone calls that come into a dental practice during work hours either go the overflow to voicemail, or if it's in the evenings, it goes to voicemail, right? And the statistics are really, really strong around voicemail. About 80% of people do not leave voicemails anymore.
Right.
And I don't know the numbers on this, but I would guess that if it's specifically a new patient calling a dental practice that gets sent to voicemail, they just call the next office. They're not going to
Yeah.
leave a voicemail. So I
Exactly.
bet it's really, really, really high. So we're thinking to ourselves, all right, we're a marketing company. We've been hired to schedule appointments and get butts in seats, so to speak, for the dental practice. We got all these phone calls coming in, they're getting sent to voicemail and nobody's picking up. But now we have this agent that can kind of speak for the practice. It knows all this information. It's connected to the patient management system. Maybe we could tie it to a voice. So if you can then tie it to a voice, and then instead of rolling calls over to voicemail where you lose most of them, just have the agent pick up. Maybe we'll get more scheduled appointments. So we built that. We finished building that. We didn't, it's always in development, but we got a working model just before the new year, like in November, December this last year. And so I have some calls that I'll play. These are actual patient phone calls with an AI agent for a practice. Now I have redacted the names of the patients and I've changed the names of the practice. Okay, so that we don't run into any HIPAA problems. But these are real phone calls. So let me just play a couple of them so people can understand how good this is getting. So let me click here. Here's one.
Hello, my name is Annie. I'm Smile Prestige's AI assistant. How can I help you? Hey, I have an implant that I need to get, and I just wanted to see how much that was going to cost. We'd be happy to help with that. What was your name? Rinda. Thanks, Rinda. Have you visited our practice before, or would this be your first time? First time. Well, it is nice to meet you, Rinda. Just in case we get disconnected, what was your phone number? Thanks, Rinda. To answer your question, the price of an implant can vary depending on what exact treatment our doctor recommends. Would you like to schedule a consultation and we can give you a detailed breakdown of your estimated cost after we've assessed your needs? I have Cigna. Do you know how much they'll cover? Many insurance plans, including Cigna, will cover at least a portion of implant-related costs, though the exact coverage can vary depending on your plan's details. We'd be happy to give you a detailed breakdown of your coverage and costs before your appointment. Would you like me to look for some open times for a consultation? Are you able to give me a ballpark estimate? While it's hard to give a ballpark estimate without first assessing your needs, we'd be happy to give you a full breakdown of your exact coverage after your consultation. If those costs are higher than you can afford, we'd be happy to tell you about our flexible payment options as well. We offer Care Credit and Cherry, which provide affordable ways to split up your payments if the recommended treatment falls outside of your budget. Would you like me to look at some open times? Yes.
Okay, so what happens with that agent? Here's what's so interesting about that particular conversation. We trained that agent to not answer the cost question directly, right? And
And that's
that,
exactly what should be done. That's
right?
exactly how a call should go. You should never give a patient the cost over the
Over the
phone
phone.
because there are a number of different reasons, especially implant or restorative, other restorative.
Yeah. So the patient asks 3 times to press to get the cost because they're gonna most likely jump off the phone and call somebody else and see if it's $100 cheaper somewhere else. That's probably what's going to happen. So the agent's trained to not answer the question directly. You could set it up so it just says, an implant costs between this much and this much, depending on that, and then be done with it, right? But this agent's trained to dodge, and then offer flexible payment options and try and lead that patient through. So I haven't done front office training. You have, okay, teaching the front desk how to handle a call like this. And I might know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask you, I mean, is that like a difficult process to get them to like stick to the game plan, stick to the scripts?
Exactly. Yep.
Tough, right?
It is so difficult, especially in today's world when you have team members that are new to dentistry, that don't understand dentistry, coming from other businesses, as well as, the patient, you need to give them the opinion that you know what you're talking about, but yet not give them exactly what they need,
Right. Yeah.
until they come in the office. Our goal of any call is basically to get that appointment scheduled. And
Yeah.
that's what the agent is doing, is getting that appointment scheduled, regardless of what the patient is asking, getting them in the chair, getting them scheduled,
Right.
and then go from there. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. So that's just, I've got several examples like this, but, and maybe what I'll do is in our follow-up email, I'll put a link in there for the audience to listen to more calls. But that's just a really, really good example of the issue here is consistency in scripting. I've been in sales for a long time, and I actually had a sales floor at one years and years and years ago, and trying to train a salesperson to listen and respond appropriately and lead the conversation it's a really, really difficult thing to do. It's one of the most difficult sales techniques that you can learn because people just want to give up information, but you have to like hold back certain amounts of information. And what was so interesting about developing this product is that it's actually pretty easy to do it with with AI, which is kind of freaky because it's like, oh my God, are we talking about an AI agent being able to handle a phone call with a human better than a human? In some situations, the answer is yes. It's
Mm.
freaky. So anyway, I'm gonna skip through a couple of these and just I want to show you.
Hello?
Let me show you a couple case studies here. Just to give an example of the value that this can actually produce. Now, this is an actual practice. This is their name of their practice, Alpine Airways of Wellness. They're a specialty practice. They do sleep medicine mostly, is what they focus on. So we turned on the agent, we trained it, turned it on web chat, turned on the phone, turned it on, and went for 2 months. The agent picked up 122 total conversations. Okay. Now, this is about 3 or 4 months ago. So this is right when we kind of launched this product. The numbers are actually a little bit better now. But anyway, 122 total conversations. Of those 122 conversations, 66 of them, just over half, went the full conversation. It means the person didn't hang up. They didn't they didn't bail
Mhm.
on the call. It wasn't a sales call or something like that. It was 66 total conversations with patients front to end. 32 of those were resolved by the agent. So what you have to realize is that when you turn this on, you're not just getting new patient phone calls. You're getting a ton of phone calls from your active patients saying, hey, I want to pay my bill, or I need to reschedule, or whatever, all the millions of different kinds of phone calls that you get. Of those 66, a little less than half were completely solved by the agent, meaning
Wow.
there's no follow-up needed by the team. There were 28 total leads. These are new leads that were created,
Mhm.
and 12 appointments were scheduled. And of that, almost $8,000 in new revenue came in from those scheduled appointments. Okay.
Not bad.
Like, why would you not turn that on? Like,
Mhm.
right? I mean, what's happening not when this is not turned on, you're probably missing a lot of that almost $8,000 because people just aren't scheduling. They're just not doing it, right? This is a practice that's a really, really big practice. They have 6 doctors in the practice. Okay. This is 1 month of usage. almost 1,200 phone calls. 358 of those calls were appointment calls, meaning the call was about scheduling a new appointment. 120 of them were emergency calls. 44 were appointment confirmations. So that means that they're just calling to confirm whether or not, their upcoming appointment, right? And then 152 calls actually scheduled appointments. And the revenue is almost $60,000. So as a marketer, okay, when I have to get on a call with a dentist who's paying us, however much money a month to do all the marketing, and I can say, hey, all this marketing that we're doing, like, let me back up. If somebody calls me to say, I want you to do my marketing, I'm saying to them, you have to turn on an AI agent in order to improve the overall marketing effectiveness. Otherwise, we walk away from tens of thousands of dollars of revenue.
Mm.
It's almost kind of like being in the dental marketing game for 15 years. It's almost like, holy cow, like every single practice is going to have some type of an AI agent managing inbound phone calls within the next 3 to 5 years. Like,
Exactly.
if not, they're just going to get beat out by other practices that do. So I show that because it's it's just a really clear. I mean, it's a very small use case. You're talking about AI in all sorts of different ways in which it can be used in a practice, in diagnostics and all sorts of stuff. This is really specifically just related to marketing, but you can see the impact that AI can have on just one simple little piece of how a dental practice is run. And so I see AI as kind of raising the roof and lowering the floor. You're lowering costs because you don't have to hire more team members to do more tasks. You can automate a lot of tasks and keep your team members.
Mhm.
And then you're raising the roof because you're just opening up opportunity for more patients to come in, right?
Exactly. I
So
love it.
anyway,
Hmm.
so with that, I will offer, if anybody's interested in Annie, um, I will be happy to jump on a call and kind of show you how it works. So if you QR code that and you're interested in seeing how it might work for your practice, go ahead and do that. And then the next thing I wanted to mention is Ann-Marie and I wrote an ebook together, and I am going to exit out of this really quick. And let me show you. I'm going to share this screen. Here it is. And I was going to get a slide for this. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. So we wrote an ebook together, and I will make sure that everybody gets a link to download this ebook. But in the ebook, we went over some of the stuff that Ann talked about in her presentation. And I think it's a great ebook. I really do. I mean, I think that your content and your information was fantastic. We just launched it today in preparation for this webinar. And you can go to My Social Practices site, and then, or actually, what I'll do for everybody on the call, I'll just send the link to download the ebook. Okay, but it's got some information in there about what we've talked about tonight, some application ways in which to apply AI to your practice, and we'll make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to download that. Um, in closing, I will say this, that Ann-Marie offers consulting, and she can obviously consult on AI, what types of tools to maybe take a look at. I know you didn't spend a lot of time saying this is a good tool and this is a good tool, but you do know, and you've done a lot of investigation on what types of tools and softwares are out there that you could use and
Hmm.
a dental practice should use, and how to evaluate those and make a healthy decision about what to use in your practice. Is that fair?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
That's
if
perfect.
you
And I'm sharing our contact information as well as,
oh,
yep.
let me stop sharing so you can show that. Go ahead and share your screen again, Ann.
Yep. It's sharing. Hopefully.
I don't see it. Why don't you
Okay.
reshare it again?
So let me reshare. And right here. There we go. How's that?
That's perfect. So Please shoot an email to Ann-Marie. There's her email. And if you have any questions for me, you're welcome to shoot me an email. I will, in the follow-up to this, I'll have the recording, and I will include your email in the email out to all the registrants and attendees. And Ann-Marie has gracefully is not the right word, gratefully, consideringly, whatever the adjective is or whatever that is, offered to do a free consultation for your practice. So if you'd like to jump on a call with her, kind of evaluate AI, and maybe there's some other stuff that the attendees might be interested in, like maybe some help with their hygiene department, or and you're welcome to, Ann-Marie, you're welcome to mention maybe some of the aspects of the consulting you can offer.
So,
Yeah.
yep, helping practices, engage the hygienists and engage the patients in understanding their disease processes, as well as looking at your overall practice. How are you using technology? What technology you should be considering, all of those kinds of things, as well as if you are an EagleSoft practice, then I can always help with that as well. So a number of different areas we can talk about and discuss.
That's great. Thanks, Ann-Marie. All right. Well, if I haven't seen any other questions come through, Adeline did respond and told me that she was raising her hand because she was driving and listening, and she hit the wrong button.
Oh,
So hopefully she's still alive, and we're good. Adeline, hopefully you're safe. But I don't have any other questions, so we will end the webinar there. And Ann-Marie, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your experience in the dental industry. And I hope that everybody on the call, or those that are interested, would reach out to Ann-Marie and take advantage of that offer to do a free consultation.
and you, Adrian, thank you for asking me to present. And I'm amazed at what Annie can do, as well as other products that my social practice can offer a team. So
I didn't
thank you
ask you to
again,
say
everyone.
that. I didn't ask her to say that either. So thank you. All right.
Well,
We'll go
thank
ahead
you,
and end
everybody. Have a great rest of your
yeah.
evening.
All right. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.